Tracy Christian, thank you for coming on the Inner Edison Podcast. I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So you got me all nervous. I was going to say your name wrong again. It was the easiest name. And everybody asked me,
name.
It's always those that get you. My wife's name is Marcia, Marcia. So I always ask people, how do you say their name? And most of the time I get it right, but today I just have no idea why I got it wrong. And everyone's like, well, why do you ask? And I tell them that. And they're like, okay, I get it now. Yes. All right. We connected through Podmatch, which is a great service to get on people's podcasts. And I use it a lot lately for my podcast because I get a lot of direct people, but it's nice to have additional people. And I kind of like the background where you have a couple different businesses, and I like to talk about that and then why you started it. How did you get into that? And one of the businesses is a clothing line we'll get into. But what I said earlier before we started, the positive thing about that is you really knew who your niche client was. And that's really important. I know for like my mortgage company, my niche client is veterans because I am one, and that's basically who I focus on. However, I do help reverse mortgage people and business owners.
Good to know.
Tracy, how'd you get into the talent agency? How'd you get into business? Was it something? Are you a family entrepreneurs? You were the first one? I know a lot of questions.
No, my parents are municipal and federal employees. So my mom worked for EEOC, and my dad taught at San Francisco City College.
Tracy, no acronyms. Not everybody understands.
Okay.
I just try to do no acronyms, and then you can say it once with the statement and then use acronym, because someone's going to go, what does EEOC mean? So
EEOC stands for Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Right. So her job was investigating for the federal government employment discrimination.
That must have been real fun.
Right?
Especially, that was in San Francisco?
She started that job. It was in San Francisco, but she started the job in Jersey and then in San Francisco.
Jersey? Now you got me questioned. They're from, originally your family's from Jersey?
Originally my family's from Jersey, yes.
That's Jersey, San Francisco, and then now Southern California. Wow. I interviewed a guy they came from the Midwest. Next thing you know, they're in Huntington Beach. It's like, of all places, which is a great place to be.
Huntington Beach is great.
Yeah, it is a great place, but it's not cheap. So when you come from a very cheap place and all of a sudden you're there, but it was all about business and what the companies that he worked for and where they were located, because you just never know. I love California. I don't care how much problems we have here. We need to fix it.
So do I. I'm an advocate. Like, I don't believe in your neighborhood has problems, so you move out. You dig in and you fight and you solve the problem.
God, you sound like me. Let's make California golden again.
Absolutely, 100%.
It's too tarnished right now. But that's how it always works. It's the same thing. I try to explain to people, this is a little off subject, but there's an old movie called The Warriors.
Oh, please. Walter Hill.
You know what I'm talking about? Well, they show in there New York in the 80s and how bad it was. I'm like, that's how bad things can get if we don't care, if we don't watch what we're doing. And certain things happen and certain things go on. And if you want to see how bad something gets, just watch that movie. You'll see it. Just look at the graffiti, the stuff. That wasn't the sets. That was the city.
Well, I mean, it was directed by a man named Walter Hill, very famous film. And you're 100% right. The gangs, running the city, the drug use. We have all seen the death of cities, right? Like, look at Detroit. Detroit is having a renaissance now. And even where I'm from in Newark, New Jersey, they had a riot in the 60s and they still have not recovered. Really? It's 2025.
Wow. That's too bad. All right. So you went, you were in San Francisco. Did you go to school to become a talent agency, or how did you?
Talent agent? No, I didn't. How I fell into being a talent agent was, I went to a popular college here. But anyway, I was friends with a director named John Singleton and his best friend and assistant, Joseph Doherty. And I was graduating from school, didn't know what I wanted to do because I have a history degree. And
I'm sorry,
John,
you have a history degree?
yes,
And not knocking that you have a history degree, but there is something to say today about liberal arts is very important when this world with AI and everything else, it's a great degree to have. So
thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
But I didn't know what, I was a kid and all of my jobs had been like in clothing stores, basically. And I said to John and Joe, I don't know what I should do when I graduate. And John said, you should either be a madam or an agent, which was like, out of the blue. And he had just gotten an Oscar nomination. So he had a lot of pull around town and got me a meeting at his agency. I liked what they had to say. It sounded interesting. And I leveraged that meeting to get other meetings around town and got a job as an assistant. So being an agent is kind of like becoming a journeyman contractor or plumber, right? Like you put in a few hours and you become an assistant and then maybe a coordinator and a junior agent and then finally an agent. And so that's what I did. But I remember my first day on the job, I walked in and it was like I'd been there for 100 years. It fit like a glove. So I never looked for another gig afterwards.
I wouldn't if it works for you. I mean, especially, because I remember I lived in LA for a period of time, and it's like you go to the bagel store and you'd see every actor or actress. I mean, it's like no big deal. There's so many people around there, And when I first got in the Navy back in the 80s, I was in San Diego. I did a little modeling and acting down there, little stuff. Oh yeah, well, I was better looking back then. I don't normally have the beard. It was grown for something. I just haven't gotten rid of it. My wife likes it, and I need to trim it up, so I will. But I'm just saying, it's one of those things where when you're in San Diego, LA, that is the industry that's there.
Yeah. Sure, that's what it's a company town, right? If you're in Detroit, you expect to see people who work on cars or something. In LA, people who work on film and television.
Yeah, or in sets and everything else, because you go to any of this place, and next thing you know, you see a set truck sitting there with all the stuff going somewhere to do movies. And so you've been in this business for a while.
30 years.
I was only assuming. I have no idea. And with the changes that we're seeing, and what I mean by that is we're seeing some movie studios being like thrown in Las Vegas. Is that going to change LA and casting and how it is done?
It changes everything. Our industry is having a huge consolidation. I mean, literally the whole landscape of our business is changing. And one of the chief exports that the United States has is culture. Okay. More than anything else. Everybody in the world knows who Tom Cruise is, or, Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie. We are the leading manufacturers of culture, film, television in the world. And so we're changing the kind of films that we make, how many we make, how much money they cost, who's in them. Everything is changing.
I mean, because there's huge difference, I'm sure, with pay scales for like a Netflix series versus an actual, certain movies. And it seems like movies are doing good again, but more people would want to watch a series on one of the streaming networks. For me, I like spy shows, different things that come out like that. And there's been some really amazing stuff that's come out. And I'm like going, okay, are the actors getting paid less because it's on a streaming service, or is it the state? Okay.
Yes. Well, and I kind of throw out the highest and the lowest.
Right? Because didn't you represent somebody on The Walking Dead?
Yes, Scott Wilson.
Because that was a series.
Yeah.
AMC yeah.
So depending on what network it is, they all have their different kind of pay scales. But everything has changed in that regard. The other thing is a lot of production used to happen right here in California or right in the United States. And I'm kind of gathering from what I hear from you. You understand this trickle down of, if The Walking Dead is shooting in San Diego, that's a lot of money for that community.
Right.
You know, the coffee shop on the corner, that the grips and the makeup people stop by every morning, the mall down the street, the parking lot that's going to be rented for the next 8 months. So when production leaves our country, it's not just about my specific industry suffering. There's a trickle out to everyone and everything. So that's what's really concerning too.
Well, because I watch the Indian, a lot of shows and this and that, and see, I mean, they're done all over the world now. I mean, or they were. I don't know with what, and I'm not trying to get political, but with Trump's doing with tariffs and different things and changing things, how much of that's going to come back to the United States? I just zero. Okay, I don't know. I don't. It's all different. But I'm just saying, I mean, then you have the ones that are popping up, like I said, in Las Vegas, new studios and different things. And that's
sure.
Yeah.
Studios are being built in Shreveport, Vegas, Jersey, lots of places. But, let's say before the pandemic, 5 years ago, maybe we had 250 shows on air. Now we're moving to, 175. So it's a significant loss of income and production. And I don't know what we're going to do about it. I mean, I'm the person that believes things are always changing. Mm-hmm. It's like riding a wave, and you got to you're always readjusting yourself, and you got to figure out what's going to be next. But, we've got to take a hard look at production numbers. The other thing that's changed for us, and you look like a man of a certain age, when we were kids, right, and there was a television show, there were 22 episodes.
Or 26.
Or 26 even.
Yeah, because that was,
right?
I think that's, there were so many shows that came up with 26 episodes. Now it's a series is 10 episodes or 8 episodes.
Exactly. 8 episodes, 6 episodes.
Yeah. Because I was saying, well, that's because now they can do more things. I'm like, no, that has.
What things are they going to do?
Yeah.
So if you watch Friends or whatever, you watch Friends, that was 22 episodes a season, and whatever you were getting paid on that show, times 22. Right. But now that a series is 8 episodes, even if you're making $1 million an episode or $100,000 an episode, at the end of the season, it's a big difference in your paycheck.
I saw some numbers. Go ahead.
Yeah, then it's a big difference in my paycheck.
Right.
And then it's a big difference in what I can pay my gardener and my, housekeeper and who I put through school, and again, the trickle down.
Well, I think recently somewhere what the actors and actresses on Wednesday got, a thing that their series that just what they got paid, each person got paid, and you're like, wow, some of those people got paid $7,500 per episode versus the main characters getting like $30,000 to $35,000 or $15,000, and that times 10 episodes or whatever it is, that's not a lot of money. I mean, unless they're doing a lot of them, compared to the old school things that used to happen where they were making a ton of money, and so here's what I'm hearing. There's less shows that are happening and they're making less money because there's less numbers. But I would think with all the different streaming services now, you got Paramount, there's so many different ones. They're not increasing their productions for more shows?
No, we've got to, no. Well, the other thing some other things that happen there. One, if you're on a show and you're like a recognizable character on a show, a network doesn't want you working for the competition. Okay. So whether that's in your agreement or it's kind of common sense,
because they had you sign up for certain studios. Now you were owned by the studio for a period of time and you would do something.
Right. Back in the day, like now to kind of own you. You have to be a series regular, but if you're on, okay, we're gonna go back in time, right?
Okay.
If you were on ER, and maybe you weren't on every episode, but you get 3 lines on ER every other episode or something. They didn't want to see you on St. Elsewhere. Okay. Both hospital shows, competition, I think they came on at the same time, whatever. And no one might say that to you, but it's common sense, right? So you kind of got to choose up. That's one thing. But no, fewer shows are being made. There's more streamers, there's more types of entertainment, but fewer shows. So what happened in about 2008, when we had a big recession, studios, there was a compression, a consolidation, and we had to put things on air. So we got into unscripted television. Now, unscripted television, game shows.
Okay.
The kind of gossip shows, documentaries, and the unscripted shows like Bravo. So that takes up a lot of real estate on television. And then the other thing about streaming services is you can first run movies or, films that are in your catalog. So no more waiting for The Godfather to come on. You can, whatever service you subscribe to, you can watch The Godfather every night if you want to. Why is that significant? Because The Godfather is still competition. So that streaming service has to compete with other streaming services, cable television, networks, and the programming within itself. If 10% of the people who subscribe to that streaming service are always going to watch The Godfather, why do they have to spend money and create another series or another film? They don't have to.
So, all right. So what I'm hearing, I'm in the mortgage industry. The last 2 years has been like some of the worst times I've ever been in. I've been in for 27 years. I've never seen interest rates go up like 5%. Well, I was upset for the first year. Then I finally realized, okay, did this happen to me or for me? So I've been doing a lot of other stuff that I needed to do, that I wanted to do, courses for the podcasting and a bunch of other stuff that I'm doing. And so what has this taught you in your industry to do in your company?
Okay. So that's an interesting question, right? So you give yourself a weekend to cry and bellyache and, oh, it used to be this and it's not that anymore and whatever. And then you got to figure out, where is the money? How am I going to, protect my business? What am I going to put my clients in? So for me, what we observed is today there are more distribution channels than ever before. And I think because of technology, and I won't say the ease of making money or the ease of making programming, you can make a movie using this.
Right.
And I encourage people to do so and put it up on YouTube. And it's probably not going to make $100 million, but can you make $1 million from this? Absolutely. So if you can get together, a good director, cinematographer, whatever, you can become your own studio. So building that infrastructure for people who are interested while still selling traditional programming. Making art, going into production is more accessible, more democratic than it ever has been before. And previously, for different groups, you really fought to try to get on television. Now you don't have to, because everybody's their own programmer. Let's say if you have an LGBT series that you really want to do, and it's very left, and it's something that would never air on CBS, doesn't matter. You can make it yourself, put it on Amazon behind a paywall, on YouTube, on 100 other different services, and be successful and have it be remunerative.
All right. So that's what that's what you're focusing on, or helping.
Yeah. So we still have traditional media that we have to service, and that's fantastic. And we do that, but at literally every single day exploring what's new and helping our clients build those bridges.
Now, is the Screen Actors Guild as big as it used to be? You know how
Zach,
traditional
I
movies.
don't, I don't know if it's how big it is or
What I mean
whatever.
is, you couldn't in the past, in order to get in a movie or whatever, you had to be part of the Screen Actors Guild.
Right.
But in order to get into the Screen Actors Guild, you had to be in a movie. Dude.
Right. I mean, it's like every union, right? Right.
Well, as you can tell, I've been around. You wouldn't know that from Modesto, California, but I do understand certain things. I was like, okay, so you have to know somebody and have them put you in their movie in order to get in the Screen Actors Guild.
So what does happen, or you have to be really good. So we represent a lot of people who are coming from the theater art schools. Like, let's say you went to Juilliard, you just graduated, you're out looking for an agent. Clearly those kids don't have any credits. So, we'll represent them and still get them auditions. And eventually a producer says, I want to hire that kid, Ed. And then they make you what's called a must hire, and you're able to join the union.
Gotcha. I just didn't know if it was still big. Do you need it for Netflix? Do you need it for all those other, that kind of stuff?
Still, yeah. The non-union work exists, but the stuff most people pay attention to is the union stuff. Yeah.
Well, that's because everybody wants the union can control. Have you seen Showrunner AI?
No.
You got to check it out. All right. So they're doing, you can create your own series now, kind of like South Park or shows like that. I'm creating this. So I do I do a lot of podcasting, but this one is Inner Edison, your greatest accomplishments come from your greatest defeats. I do Helping the Brave, which is for us veterans once we take the uniform off. And then I do a sales one called Aces 53, which really was originally 4 aces and a joker, but that was a band and I couldn't get that domain. So ACEs stand for attitude, commitment, enthusiasm, smile that you bring to the table in sales. And the joker is that unique ability you have either earned where you learn it or you have it naturally. I sold by the phone for 18 years and you can tell I did pretty well with it. I didn't know I had a deep voice until I put headphones on. Wish I would have known it 20, 30 years ago. I could have done really well. And other things maybe. Well, what I'm getting at is, we always say it's with Brian Galke, who's a facial recognition guy who can tell you everything about you from your eyebrows, your nostrils, the little lines here. He could tell. You'll be subtleskills.com. Go check it out. It's amazing what this guy can do. We do a podcast together and we call it the Grumpy Old Men because, we talk about different things all the time. And so that's, and he always says we're like the 2 grumpy men from Sesame Street.
Yeah.
So that's the show I'm creating on there. And it's going to be more where people come in and talk about different products that they have and they're ridiculous products. And grumpy old man and I'm in, that kind of, and so we'll talk.
Sounds fun.
We'll see. Who knows? But it's just they just started the Showrunner AI and they created a bunch of shows, and you could add to them. And now, starting this week, you can create your own show. Yeah,
like I said, you can do everything with technology.
And the AI helps you write the show and do the
absolutely.
Show.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's something that what you were talking about, this is something else that can, get the characters and do everything. And next, I'm not really big on animated stuff. I like real movies. I don't like any of the other stuff. It's not my thing. But I can see how this will work for a lot of places. And you can use it for your own company stuff. Like you want to make your own videos of your stuff and things, and you can use this service to do that. And I'm like, wow, it's so easy. But it also now takes away, the people who used to draw this stuff.
I mean, look, they could have said, like, what is it? Like letters or mail took away calligraphers or like you cannot stop technology.
No.
Right? You can only figure out how to make it work for you instead of against you. So that's what we all have to do as mature, responsible adults. Like I said, take a weekend, cry, that you went to school to learn X, Y, and Z, and now it's an app, but then figure out how to use it to your advantage.
Yeah. And that, so have you, all right. So this is your first business we've been talking about. You have a second business that you started. One of the things that I talked about originally before we got going is that you knew your niche, and that was amazing because most people don't. And so before we get into that, being a talent agent and having your own business for 15 years, what was building that out? What was one of your failures?
Oh my gosh.
Because this show is about failure, so people understand that you have to fail.
First of all, I love your premise. I love your premise. You know what? I always saw myself as a smart agent. I didn't see myself as a leader, and I didn't know that. So, and it showed up in 1,000 different ways. So here's one way. So every once in a while, the whole office, maybe we'd go to lunch together, or some of us would go to lunch together. And I'd say to whoever I was going to lunch with, oh, hey, it's Thursday. You guys remind me when we get back to the office that I have to run payroll. And everybody would go, okay. And so we'd go out to lunch, and we're having a good time. And, the clock is ticking, and I'm not paying attention. And then we get back to the office, and nobody said anything to me. And I realized about 5 o'clock that I haven't run payroll. So nobody's getting paid the next day. And then I walk around the office and I say, damn it, you guys didn't remind me. But I'm like, okay, look, if you're going to have a check bounce or something, come to me privately, let me know. And I'll make sure that you're cool, but everybody will get their paychecks on Monday. I walk back into my office. I feel like no big deal, right? I've plugged all the holes. But to them, first of all, we know everybody handles money differently. So even though I think I've plugged every hole and I think, what's the big deal? And I've got extra in my account, the assistants are having a heart attack, a panic attack, because they're thinking, well, did she not run payroll because we don't have any money? Somebody else is upset because they wanted to, go to Vegas this weekend, and they don't want to have to ask their boss for an additional $2,000. And, what if I ask what it's for? But I wasn't being responsible. I wasn't thinking truly like somebody who owns a company. I was thinking like Tracy, who's going to lunch with her friends. I've made every mistake in the book. And I love your premise, because if you can meditate on those mistakes, you can become, I think for people who want to be masters of whatever they do, they take in your Edison principle, right? You move fast and you make as many mistakes as you can, and you learn from them. The people who want to tread water, they never make a mistake because they're not doing anything. But I was out there, unfortunately, making every mistake that I could in who you hire, how you hire. I gave you the payroll mistake, but in so many ways. And probably one of the reasons that I think I'm so supportive of technology and pivoting doesn't cause me to panic is because I've made those mistakes.
How did you start your other business?
My clothing line?
Yeah. But before I'm sorry, I do this. And normally I don't do two businesses, but now, so when did you learn? Because a lot of people want to be friends with their employees at first, and then they realize they can't be friends. They actually have to be a employer-employee relationship in order to keep things separate. And then they find out how lonely it is at the top. When did you, and then you realize you need to go to masterminds or other things to talk to other business owners to find out issues and other stuff. When did you find that out?
So you asked a few questions there. So one, culturally, I was raised, I was not against coaching, but I guess I didn't have an experience with it. And didn't really understand it. And if I'm honest, I kind of felt like maybe people who were getting coached had a weakness. And then one day, a a manager who I really respected, we were having lunch and he was telling me how he got a business coach and how he was doing this thing called Landmark. And I was like kind of blown back because here's this guy who's been successful for 20 years and represented movie stars. And, he's doing this coaching thing. And that crocked for me. And I said, okay, well, if he can do it, I can at least investigate it. But he was talking about how the coach was helping him. And it was a way of, spitballing business principles and growing your business without worrying about it getting, out into the marketplace. And that certainly made sense to me. And some of the loneliness and maybe insecurity and lack of access that you might have as a business person, coaching really is a shortcut to getting over that. And so I eventually got a business coach and found that it was very, very, very helpful. It was helpful in training myself as a leader, as a business owner, and training my team.
How long in the business did that take you to do that?
Probably 5 years.
Okay, that's not too bad. But you've owned your talent agency for 15 years?
Correct. A little over, I think 17 by now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just going off of what's written.
I know.
And so, I mean, because I think when I work for a guy, I thought I spent his money the same way I would spend the money when I'm the owner. And it's not, there's nowhere, you have no idea until you become the owner how it is. And some people shouldn't. I would say there's some people who shouldn't be owners just because they don't want to go through that process and where they want to be. That's fine. You just have to find out what works for you.
Sure.
So how did you start the clothing line? Was it just someone said you should do this because what you did, or how'd you do it?
No, I'm a big girl. I'm a plus size girl, and finding clothes has always been an issue. And when I was very young, I used to upscale clothes and sew and, pretty much make my own wardrobe. But I got to a point where, you're signing a client who might bring in several $1 million a year. Most of the plus size clothes out there are really trash. They're all polyester. They all look like, you're a cheap bank manager, or like you manage a low level chain restaurant. And so it's just not congruent, right? You can't, you're expecting someone in my position to show up in the world in a very different way. And I always wanted a clothing line, but the technology didn't exist to do it without you having a lot of money. Even websites, right? Like I remember when putting a website together would be like $20,000.
Yeah. Right. They could be really expensive back in the day.
Right. You had to hire a webmaster and, all of this stuff that, kids nowadays have no idea.
AI right now.
Right. So the pandemic was happening. And I remember saying to myself, if I come out of the pandemic the same person that I went in as, that's a problem. So this is an opportunity for me to really fine tune my business. And I was just thinking about TCA. One night I went to bed and I believe, because, I'm a faith person, and I believe like God just said, start your clothing line. And I hadn't thought about that business or starting a clothing line in decades. So I got up at 3:00 in the morning, I bought a domain, and that was the start of it. And within 6 months, I had a clothing line, and within a year, I was in production. So I design all the clothes. We manufacture here in Los Angeles, and then they're sold. We're in a few stores around the country, but mainly they're sold on our website. So all of that happened within 12 months.
And is the garment district still in LA?
It is. But
I don't think people realize how much it used to be, how big it was. So
yeah, ICE has really kicked it in the teeth, but it's still there.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Because what people don't realize is that even like T-shirts now, print on demand, Printful. I created a whole line of my Inner Edison stuff and helping the brave and all the different things, and it's on my shop. Ed Parcaut, and it's like
Yeah. You don't have to somebody presses a button and then some computer someplace prints your shirt.
Yeah, it's like this coffee mug. I do a fire walk for veterans, and I created it on there,
Cool.
and you can order it. It's just the stuff you can do now, which before, you're right, it's like how expensive it was, yet, or you had to carry so much product at one.
Yes.
Had to
You had to
order.
have a warehouse because whether you sold one mug or 100, you had to already produce those mugs and have them sitting somewhere.
Yeah, and now they can do them on demand. However,
Exactly.
there is a lot of different companies out, because I interviewed a guy who does the warehouse spaces for all these things
Mhm.
now, and how they have them in different places in the United States where you can put products so your store can ship it. And it's cheaper for you. And when you get into that realm, and it's just amazing how far it's come for people to do anything that you want. You just have to do something and figure it out.
Exactly, to your point. I don't even think you have to figure out. You have to be in motion. You have to take a step. Like be wrong, take the wrong step, but you have to take a step. And
Yeah.
that leads you someplace else, you know?
There was a quote I wrote down. I can't read it right now because I scribbled it, but I heard it on TV. It was basically, you just need to take action is basically what it's saying. You have to do something. It was a lady who just wrote a book, 10 ways or something, that she made $100 million or something like that.
What do they say? What's the Chinese saying? The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step.
Right. And that's what they're saying. You just have to get moving. And the difference between somebody doing it and somebody making money is they actually did action on it. You can't.
Exactly. Exactly. Want to lose 100 pounds? Put on a sweatsuit, right? Like, I'm not saying you got to jog 5 miles the first day and, eat macrobiotic. None of that. You just got to show up. You got to start taking action. That's where it all starts.
So what's next for you, Tracy?
So scaling both businesses. And actually my talent agency, we've released a lot of people to just focus, with everything that's happening in our industry. We're blessed to be able to represent some really talented people. And rather than trying to scale in terms of the number of people we represent, we're scaling in terms of the service that we can offer to a select group of individuals. And that's been really remunerative for us and working very well. And then on my clothing line, we are actually entertaining offers from some much larger stores about going into those stores. And yeah, and I'm just having a good time with that.
Good. I'm just glad. I mean, you have to, we talked about it before, you have to niche it's not being something to everybody. You have to focus on certain things and just focus on those people that you want, that your perfect client to be, and just focus on them and build them up. That's how you make more money. And people don't realize, it used to be that the saying was the riches are in the niches, which isn't, and besides the stitches, snitches get stitches. But it's so true. I mean, the more you focus on who they hear it, they hear the message. I'm not to say you can't do stuff for other people that come to you, and I've even in my business, I have 3 separate websites for 3 separate things, even though they're owned by the same company. But it's when you come to it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're hearing me at that point because that's what you wanted. And that's
Look, it's really hard to be Costco. Okay. Without a lot of backing and funding. You can find whatever you want at Costco. I bought a shed at Costco. I buy gas at Costco and everything in between. But if you can be the Silver Lake cheese shop that just sells rarefied wines, cheeses, and crackers and whatever, that's very specific. I know what I'm getting. And that place has lines out the door.
Right. Well, people didn't remember Price Club, right? I mean, that was the other huge warehouse that there was 2 of them. And then now there's one of them, and then Sam's Clubs, I guess, but nothing's like a Costco. But it's just it's hard to be the lowest price leader to everybody. And Amazon's done pretty well, and that's just because people kept giving it money, and they'll keep spend money. Eventually, you'll make money, and finally, it did. But
eventually, yeah,
eventually. But not everybody can burn cash like that.
No, that's the thing, right? Like, if your partner's a billionaire and they're going to write you a blank check, sure, go for it. But
sometimes it's even better because I've listened to so many people, Alex Hormozy at different places, and they're talking about it's not the money that you have, it's how to do this, this, and this, and that's how you can get the money. Because they were on a show recently, the CEO, what is the Diary of a CEO? They're all three. There's three of them on there, and they were talking. Each one of them, you got 1,000, you got 10,000, and 100,000, and basically their answer was the same about what to do. So. Yeah, no, it didn't matter the money is what I was trying to get at. So it does help. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't always need to be there. All right, Tracy, it was nice having you on the show today. Anything you want to tell anybody, or how do people find your website or different things?
Sure. So if you are into plus size luxury clothing, you can find me at santegrace.com, SANTE grace.com. And if you need a talent agent,
So here's my question: what are you looking for on the talent side?
On the talent side, like you've got to have a ton of experience, probably a series or two in your back pocket that you've been on, and then you can feel free to reach out to us. We're called TCA MGMT.
TCA MG. What's your website?
TCAMGMT.com.
Okay, there we go. Tracy, again, thank you so much for being on Inner Edison Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Ed.
My pleasure.